1 Intro. Most people think Stoicism makes you cold. It doesn't. It makes you dangerous. Because the moment you stop reacting, anger loses its grip, insults fall flat, and chaos stops feeding on you. This isn't about suppressing emotions. It's about choosing when, and if, they deserve your response. If you want to master that power, subscribe to Legacy of Thinkers. Because once you understand this rule, nothing controls you the same way again. 2. The modern problem. We live in a world that rewards instant reactions. Notifications buzz, opinions collide. Everyone is expected to respond, now, loudly, emotionally. Anger spreads faster than thought. Offense becomes identity. And the loudest reaction often wins, even when it's wrong. Most people believe their emotions are happening to them, but the truth is harsher. They've never trained the space between stimulus and response. So every comment feels personal. Every delay feels like rejection. Every disagreement feels like a threat. This constant reacting comes at a cost. It drains focus. It fuels anxiety. It hands control of your inner state to strangers, headlines, and passing moods. Modern life doesn't just exhaust us physically. It fragments attention, shortens patience, and teaches us to confuse urgency with importance. And when everything feels urgent, nothing feels stable. The real problem isn't that people feel too much. It's that they react before they understand, before they choose, before they remember who is actually in control. 3. Stoic context. The Stoics saw this problem long before smartphones, headlines, and comment sections. Seneca wrote that we don't suffer because life is unbearable. We suffer because our minds interpret everything as a verdict. A delay becomes disrespect. A criticism becomes rejection. A bad day becomes a prophecy. And that's why Stoicism isn't positive thinking. It's training. Like learning to drive on ice. The goal isn't to remove the danger, but to stop overcorrecting when the road slips. For Seneca, emotion wasn't the enemy. Unexamined reaction was. He understood something most people miss. Feelings arrive like weather, but actions are choices. The first spark of anger might be involuntary, but the second, third, and fourth flame are often fed by your story. How dare they? This shouldn't happen. They're doing this to me. The Stoics called this assent. The moment you agree with the impression in your mind. You see an insult, and you decide it's an insult. You feel ignored, and you decide it means you're unworthy. The world throws the match. Your judgment provides the fuel. So the Stoic practice isn't coldness. It's clarity. It's the discipline of asking, before you react, what exactly happened? What am I telling myself about it? Is my interpretation the only interpretation? Seneca believed the most powerful person in the room is not the loudest. It's the one who can feel the pull of emotion and still choose a measured response. Not because they don't care, but because they care enough to be governed by reason, not impulse. 4. The dangerous rule. The most dangerous rule in Stoicism is simple, but unsettling. Nothing deserves your immediate reaction. Not the insult. Not the delay. Not the unexpected silence. Because the moment you react automatically, you hand control to something outside you. Most people confuse reaction with strength. They think responding fast means confidence, dominance, or self-respect. But the Stoics saw the opposite. Speed is often a sign of captivity. If someone can provoke you instantly, they own a piece of your mind. Seneca warned that reacting too quickly feels natural only because it's familiar. Habit disguises itself as instinct. Over time, people stop noticing that their emotions are being led, pulled, and steered by events they never chose. The dangerous rule asks for something uncomfortable, a pause. Not a dramatic pause. Not silence as punishment. Just a brief gap where you regain authorship of your response. That pause is where freedom lives. In that space, You remember a Stoic truth most people forget. Events don't command you, your judgments do. An insult is only an insult once you agree it matters. A setback is only a failure once you decide it defines you. Until then, it's just raw information. This rule doesn't remove emotion. It reorganizes power. You still feel anger, disappointment, desire, but they no longer issue orders. They become data, not dictators. That's why the rule is dangerous. It threatens every system built on provoking you. Every argument that needs your outrage. Every manipulation that depends on your urgency. When you stop reacting, you don't become passive. You become selective. And selection, not reaction, is where real control begins. 5 emotional consequences. When you stop reacting, something strange happens. The world doesn't end. People still talk, situations still unfold. But the emotional hook they used to grab in you stops catching. The first consequence is quiet and powerful. You become harder to manipulate. Some people rely on your urgency. They want you to answer now, explain now, defend now. Because if they can rush you, they can steer you. But when you slow down, their leverage disappears. The second consequence is social. Drama starts to starve. Drama needs fuel, your outrage, your fear, your need to be understood immediately. Without that fuel, it can't burn. So the arguments get shorter. The tension softens. And sometimes, the loudest people reveal they never wanted resolution, only reaction. The third consequence is internal. Your nervous system finally gets proof that you're safe. Most of your stress isn't caused by events. It's caused by the constant signal in your body that says, respond or you'll lose control. But each time you pause, and nothing collapses, your brain learns a new truth. I can feel this, and still choose. And that changes your relationships. You stop bargaining for peace. You stop chasing closure from people who can't give it. You stop treating every uncomfortable feeling like an emergency. This is the emotional consequence Stoicism promises, not numbness, but stability. Not silence, but self-possession. You still care. You still feel. You just don't hand the steering wheel to whatever provoked you. 6. Modern application. The Stoics didn't stop at theory. They built practices, simple, repeatable ways to live this rule in real moments. Start with messages. A text is left on read. Silence stretches. The impulse is immediate. Explain. Apologize. Push for clarity. Pause instead. Ask one question. What facts do I actually have? Not stories. Not assumptions. Just facts. Most of the time, silence is only silence until you decide it means something else. At work, criticism lands unexpectedly. Your chest tightens. The reflex is defense. Instead, delay assent. Separate information from insult. Write down what was said, word for word. Then ask, is there something useful here? If yes, take it without the poison. If no, let it pass without a speech. In relationships, conflict escalates when speed replaces intention. When emotions rise, lower your pace. Say less. Breathe longer. The Stoic move isn't withdrawal, it's containment. You're not refusing to engage. You're choosing how and when. Practice the pause in small ways. Wait 5 minutes before replying. Walk before deciding. Sleep before committing. These aren't tricks. They're training reps for sovereignty. Over time, something shifts. You respond with precision instead of pressure. You speak from choice, not momentum. And people feel it. The calm isn't passive, it's grounded. The boundary isn't cold, it's clear. This is how Stoicism lives today. Not in ancient quotes, but in modern moments where you choose restraint over reaction and win quietly. 7. Quiet power ending. Stoicism doesn't promise a louder voice. It promises a steadier one. When you stop reacting, you don't disappear. You become deliberate. Your words land with weight because they're chosen, not rushed. Your silence speaks because it isn't fear, it's control. This is quiet power. The kind that doesn't need to win every argument. The kind that isn't shaken by moods, messages, or momentary pressure. Not because you don't feel, but because you decide. In a world addicted to reaction, restraint becomes rare. And what's rare becomes valuable. If this perspective shifted something in you, share it with someone who needs calm more than noise. Leave a comment with the moment you struggle most to pause. If this helped, give it a like. It tells us to make more like this. And if you're learning to live with clarity instead of chaos, subscribe to Legacy of Thinkers. Because real strength isn't loud. It's chosen, again and again.